Listen carefully, Netanyahu. I revealed your secret gold network, and your era in Africa ended the moment I exposed it. You used our continent as your personal treasure chest for 37 years while we suffered in poverty. That's over now. You have one choice: return every ounce of stolen gold to Africa, or face my action. I'm not negotiating, I'm demanding. Return our wealth, or watch me destroy every Israeli on this continent. Your time to decide is running out. Choose wisely. Let me explain exactly how I discovered Israel's clandestine mining empire. My geology minister presents disturbing report during cabinet meeting. Report documents unexplained mineral depletion in Burkina Faso's northern mining regions. Geological surveys indicate substantial rare earth deposits, estimated 340,000 tons of proven reserves. But official mining records show only 12,000 tons extracted over past 15 years. Gap of 328,000 tons worth approximately $9.8 billion has disappeared without documentation. This isn't accounting error. This is industrial-scale theft. I order immediate investigation. Deploy geological survey teams to every mining region. Use satellite imaging to identify unauthorized operations. Cross-reference energy consumption data with official mining licenses. Audit all mining companies operating in Burkina Faso. I want complete mapping of actual mining activity versus licensed operations. I will know who's stealing our minerals and how they're hiding it. Investigation takes 97 days of intensive fieldwork. My teams discover shocking reality. Israel operates vast clandestine mining network across Burkina Faso and 6 neighboring nations: Mali, Niger, Chad, Central African Republic, Cameroon, and Nigeria. Network extracts rare earth elements, coltan, uranium, lithium, and cobalt, worth approximately $23 billion annually, without paying royalties, taxes, or export duties. Operations have run for 22 years since 2002, extracting estimated $506 billion in African minerals through completely hidden infrastructure. The network's sophistication exceeds anything I imagined. Israeli intelligence established mining operations disguised as agricultural projects, humanitarian facilities, and telecommunications infrastructure. Surface appearance shows legitimate civilian activity. Underground reality is massive mining operations extracting strategic minerals. First operational model: Israeli operatives establish agricultural research stations in mineral-rich regions. Surface facilities include greenhouses, irrigation systems, and crop storage. Underground facilities include mining shafts, processing equipment, and mineral storage. Agricultural cover provides explanation for heavy machinery, large workforce, and constant truck traffic. Local populations believe they're observing farming operations. Actually, they're witnessing mineral extraction disguised as agriculture. Israeli organizations operate humanitarian medical clinics in remote mining regions. Surface facilities provide basic healthcare to local communities. Underground facilities house mining operations accessing mineral deposits directly beneath clinics. Medical humanitarian cover prevents scrutiny. Governments don't investigate facilities providing healthcare to underserved populations. Israeli operatives exploit African gratitude for medical services to hide resource theft beneath. Third model: Israeli telecommunications companies install cell tower infrastructure across mineral-rich territories. Surface installations are functional cell towers providing mobile coverage. Underground installations are mining operations accessed through tower foundation structures. Telecommunications cover explains constant maintenance visits, equipment deliveries, and power consumption. Nobody questions cell tower operations because they provide valuable connectivity services while secretly extracting minerals below. Israeli water well drilling projects in arid regions. Surface operations drill wells providing clean water to communities. Underground operations extend far beyond water table depths, accessing mineral deposits and establishing extraction infrastructure. Water provision creates goodwill, preventing investigation of operations that extend hundreds of meters below stated well depths. Each model provides legitimate civilian benefit, creating protective cover for mining operations. Communities receive agricultural assistance, medical care, mobile connectivity, or clean water. They don't realize these services are cover for mineral extraction occurring beneath their feet. Israeli operatives exploit African needs to hide resource theft. The network's infrastructure is equally sophisticated. Israeli engineers constructed underground tunnel systems connecting mining sites to hidden processing facilities. Minerals are extracted at disguised surface operations, transported through underground tunnels, avoiding roads and checkpoints, processed at concealed facilities, and exported through unofficial routes bypassing all government oversight. Power infrastructure reveals network scale. Official electrical grid data shows unusual consumption patterns in regions hosting Israeli operations. Agricultural Research Station in northern Burkina Faso consumes 12 megawatts daily, enough electricity to power 8,000 homes. No agricultural facility requires this energy. Mining operation with underground processing equipment does. Medical clinic in eastern Mali consumes 8 megawatts daily. Healthcare facility serving 2,000 patients weekly needs 0.3 megawatts maximum. 8 megawatts powers industrial mining operation. Telecommunications tower in Chad consumes 15 megawatts daily. Cell tower requires 0.05 megawatts. 15 megawatts runs massive mineral processing facility. I analyze power consumption data across all suspected Israeli operations. Total electricity usage, 847 megawatts across 73 facilities in 7 nations. This is industrial-scale mining operation disguised as civilian infrastructure. Energy consumption alone proves mining activity, regardless of surface appearances. Satellite imaging confirms underground operations. Ground-penetrating radar reveals extensive tunnel networks, large underground chambers, and subsurface infrastructure inconsistent with stated facility purposes. Agricultural Station has underground complex covering 12 hectares with tunnel network extending 8 kilometers. No farming operation needs this. Mining operation with processing facilities and transportation tunnels does. Financial analysis exposes money flows. Israeli shell companies operating these facilities receive funding from sources unrelated to stated activities. Agricultural Research Station receives $340 million annually from Israeli defense contractors. Agricultural research doesn't require this funding. Mining operation extracting strategic minerals for Israeli military-industrial complex does. Medical clinic receives $280 million annually from Israeli intelligence-linked investment funds. Healthcare for 2,000 weekly patients costs $2 million annually maximum. $280 million funds mining operation with medical cover. I trace corporate ownership through multiple shell company layers. Every facility ultimately connects to Israeli government entities, defense contractors, or intelligence-linked investment funds. This isn't private mining operation. This is Israeli state-sponsored resource extraction disguised as civilian projects. Export routes reveal final proof. Minerals extracted from these facilities don't appear in any African nation's official export statistics. They're smuggled out through Israeli diplomatic cargo, private aircraft using remote airstrips, and maritime shipping from ports where Israeli operatives bribed customs officials. Smuggled minerals arrive in Israel, enter defense contractors and technology manufacturers, and become components in Israeli weapons systems, electronics, and strategic stockpiles. I compile complete intelligence package documenting Israeli clandestine mining network. Evidence includes satellite imagery of underground facilities, power consumption data proving industrial operations, financial records tracing funding to Israeli state entities, geological surveys confirming mineral depletion, testimonies from workers describing actual operations, and export tracking showing smuggled minerals arriving in Israel. Documentation is comprehensive, irrefutable, and devastating. I convene emergency National Security Council meeting. I present findings with maps, photographs, and data displays. Israel operates clandestine mining network across 7 African nations, extracting $23 billion annually in strategic minerals. Network has operated 22 years, stealing $506 billion total. They disguise mining operations as agricultural projects, medical clinics, telecommunications infrastructure, and water wells. They built underground tunnel systems, processing facilities, and smuggling routes. They consume 847 megawatts of electricity daily, running industrial operations hidden beneath civilian cover. They export stolen minerals through diplomatic channels and bribed customs officials. This is largest covert resource extraction operation in African history. I propose immediate action. Nationalize all Israeli-operated facilities, arrest all operatives, seize all extracted minerals, shut down all smuggling routes, and expose network internationally. This ends now. Defense Minister raises operational concern. Mr. President, these facilities are integrated into civilian infrastructure. Agricultural stations feed local communities. Medical clinics serve patients. Cell towers provide connectivity. Water wells supply villages. If we shut operations suddenly, we disrupt services populations depend on. I respond with solution. We don't shut operations. We seize them. Agricultural stations continue farming while we take control of underground mining. Medical clinics continue healthcare while we arrest Israeli operatives and replace them with our personnel. Cell towers keep functioning while we seize mining infrastructure beneath. Water wells continue pumping while we nationalize mineral extraction operations. We separate legitimate civilian services from hidden mining operations. Communities keep benefits. We take stolen resources. Intelligence chief asks about Israeli response. Mr. President, Israel will claim these facilities are legitimate civilian projects. They'll deny mining operations. They'll accuse us of seizing humanitarian and development infrastructure. How do we counter this narrative? I outline strategy. We document everything before seizure. Video teams film underground mining operations, processing equipment, and mineral stockpiles. We collect physical evidence, extracted minerals, mining equipment, geological surveys. We interview workers who operated actual mining rather than cover activities. We measure power consumption, proving industrial operations. We present overwhelming evidence, making Israeli denials impossible. Then we invite international media to inspect seized facilities. Journalists can verify underground mining operations themselves. Evidence speaks louder than Israeli lies. National Security Council authorizes Operation Mineral Sovereignty unanimously. I have legal authority, intelligence foundation, and operational plan for seizing Israeli clandestine mining network. I coordinate with 6 neighboring nations affected by Israeli mining operations, secure communication with presidents of Mali, Niger, Chad, Central African Republic, Cameroon, and Nigeria. I share complete intelligence package documenting Israeli operations in each country. Evidence includes satellite imagery of specific facilities, power consumption data, financial records, and export tracking. Each president responds with shock and determination. Malian president speaks first. We have 3 Israeli agricultural stations in northern Mali. We believe they were helping develop arid region farming. Your evidence proves their mining operations stealing our minerals. Mali will participate in coordinated seizure. Nigerian president adds, Nigeria hosts 12 Israeli facilities we thought were legitimate telecommunications and water projects. Your documentation shows massive underground mining beneath each site. We've been providing security and tax exemptions to operations stealing our resources. Nigeria commits to joint action. Each nation agrees to simultaneous operation. March 20, set as execution date. Israeli clandestine mining network faces coordinated seizure by 7 African governments acting in perfect coordination. I finalize operational details. Each nation assigns military engineering units capable of securing underground mining operations. Burkina Faso deploys 890 soldiers, including 120 mining engineers. Mali commits 670 troops with 89 engineers. Niger provides 540 personnel with 67 engineers. Chad assigns 430 soldiers with 56 engineers. Central African Republic deploys 310 troops with 34 engineers. Cameroon commits 520 soldiers with 71 engineers. Nigeria provides 1,240 troops with 178 engineers. Total force, 4,600 soldiers and 615 mining engineers executing simultaneous seizures across 7 nations. Each nation identifies target facilities based on intelligence. Burkina Faso targets 19 Israeli mining operations disguised as civilian projects. Mali targets 14 facilities. Niger targets 11 sites. Chad targets 8 operations. CAR targets 6 facilities. Cameroon targets 9 sites. Nigeria targets 12 operations. Total targets 79 clandestine mining facilities across 7 nations. Each nation prepares nationalization decrees and arrest warrants. Burkina Faso issues decree nationalizing 19 facilities and warrants for 67 Israeli operatives. Mali issues decree for 14 facilities and warrants for 52 operatives. Niger issues decree for 11 facilities and warrants for 38 operatives. Chad issues decree for 8 facilities and warrants for 29 operatives. CAR issues decree for 6 facilities and warrants for 21 operatives. Cameroon issues decree for 9 facilities and warrants for 34 operatives. Nigeria issues decree for 12 facilities and warrants for 89 operatives. Total, 79 facilities nationalized, 330 Israeli operatives facing arrest. March 20, 5 a.m. across all time zones. Operation Mineral Sovereignty executes flawlessly. 4,600 soldiers and 615 mining engineers simultaneously seize 79 Israeli clandestine mining facilities across 7 African nations. Israeli operatives are caught completely unprepared. Most are arrested at facility housing before they can destroy evidence or flee. Burkina Faso seizes all 19 targeted facilities within first 2 hours. Military engineers descend into underground operations, documenting mining equipment, processing facilities, and mineral stockpiles. We discover 4,200 tons of rare earth elements worth $126 million ready for smuggling. We find sophisticated mining equipment worth $340 million. We arrest 64 of 67 Israeli operatives. We cut power to underground operations, halting all extraction. We secure facilities completely. Mali seizes all 14 facilities, discovers 2,800 tons of coltan worth $89 million, arrests 49 of 52 operatives, secures mining infrastructure worth $280 million. Perfect execution. Niger seizes all 11 facilities, discovers 1,900 tons of uranium ore worth $67 million, arrests 36 of 38 operatives, secures equipment worth $190 million. Complete success. Chad seizes all 8 facilities, discovers 1,400 tons of lithium ore worth $45 million, arrests 27 of 29 operatives, secures infrastructure worth $140 million. Excellent results. CAR seizes all 6 facilities, discovers 980 tons of rare earth elements worth $31 million, arrests 20 of 21 operatives, secures equipment worth $89 million. Strong success. Cameroon seizes all 9 facilities, discovers 1,600 tons of cobalt ore worth $52 million, arrests 32 of 34 operatives, secures infrastructure worth $160 million. Outstanding execution. Nigeria seizes all 12 facilities, discovers 3,100 tons of mixed strategic minerals worth $98 million, arrests 85 of 89 operatives, secures equipment worth $420 million. Comprehensive success. Total results: 79 of 79 facilities, seized 100% success rate. 313 of 330 Israeli operatives, arrested 94.8% capture rate. 16,000 tons of strategic minerals seized worth $508 million. Mining equipment and infrastructure worth $1.619 billion nationalized. Israeli clandestine mining network destroyed in coordinated operation lasting 6 hours. I announce operation publicly at 11 a.m. while documentation teams are still filming underground facilities. This morning, 7 African nations executed coordinated operations seizing Israeli clandestine mining network. We nationalized 79 facilities Israel disguised as agricultural projects, medical clinics, telecommunications infrastructure, and water wells. We arrested 313 Israeli operatives. We seized 16,000 tons of strategic minerals worth $508 million. We nationalized mining equipment and infrastructure worth $1.619 billion. We documented 22 years of systematic theft extracting $506 billion in African minerals. Israel operated industrial-scale mining disguised as humanitarian and development projects. They built underground tunnel networks, processing facilities, and smuggling routes. They consumed 847 megawatts daily running hidden operations. They exported stolen minerals through diplomatic channels and bribed officials. This theft ends today. Every facility is nationalized. Every operative is arrested. Every smuggling route is shut. Israel's covert mining in Africa is finished permanently. Israeli response is immediate denial. Israeli Foreign Ministry issues statement within 90 minutes. Israel categorically denies operating secret mining network in Africa. Facilities seized today are legitimate agricultural, medical, telecommunications, and water projects serving African communities. Arrested individuals are humanitarian workers and development specialists, not mining operatives. These seizures represent theft of Israeli humanitarian investments and violation of international law. We demand immediate return of facilities and release of detained personnel. Israel is denying everything despite overwhelming evidence. They're claiming humanitarian cover is real rather than disguise for mining operations. They're framing resource theft as humanitarian investment, standard Israeli deception when caught. I respond publicly within 2 hours. Israel claims seized facilities are legitimate humanitarian projects. We invite international media to inspect facilities and verify our evidence. We filmed underground mining operations. Journalists can watch footage showing industrial extraction equipment, processing facilities, and mineral stockpiles. We measured power consumption. 847 megawatts daily proves industrial operations, not humanitarian projects. We seized 16,000 tons of minerals, physical evidence Israel cannot explain away. We arrested operatives who confessed to mining operations. We documented financial flows from Israeli defense contractors funding humanitarian facilities. Evidence is comprehensive and irrefutable. Israel can deny all they want. We're proving everything through transparent documentation. International media is invited to Burkina Faso tomorrow to inspect seized facilities personally. International journalists arrive in Ouagadougou. I arrange comprehensive facility tours with full access to underground operations. Journalists from Al Jazeera, BBC, CNN, RT, CGTN, and Reuters tour seized agricultural research station in northern Burkina Faso. Surface tour shows legitimate farming operations, greenhouses producing vegetables, irrigation systems, crop storage facilities. Journalists note this matches Israeli claims of agricultural project. Then I take them underground. Elevator descends 200 meters below surface. Doors open to massive mining operation, industrial extraction equipment, ore processing facilities, mineral storage chambers, underground railways transporting extracted materials. Journalists film everything mining machinery with Israeli manufacturer labels, processing equipment, analyzing rare earth composition, storage chambers containing 4,200 tons of minerals, tunnel networks extending kilometers in multiple directions. Al Jazeera correspondent reports live. We're standing 200 meters underground beneath what Israel claimed was agricultural research station. Around us is sophisticated mining operation extracting rare earth elements. Equipment is industrial scale, infrastructure is extensive, and mineral stockpiles are massive. Israel's claim that this was farming project is demonstrably false. This is mining operation disguised as agriculture. BBC journalist examines equipment. Mining machinery here is worth millions. Processing facilities are analyzing mineral composition. Storage chambers contain thousands of tons of rare earth elements. Power consumption data shows this facility used 12 megawatts daily, consistent with industrial mining, impossible for agriculture. Evidence contradicts Israeli denials completely. CNN reporter interviews arrested Israeli operative on camera. Can you describe your work here? Operative responds, I'm mining engineer. I operated extraction equipment, processed ore, and prepared minerals for export. This was mining operation from beginning. Agricultural cover was for local population and government inspectors. We grew some crops on surface to maintain appearance, but underground mining was actual operation. RT correspondent summarizes, we've now toured 3 facilities Israel claimed were humanitarian projects. All 3 have massive underground mining operations. Evidence is consistent across sites, industrial equipment, extensive infrastructure, large mineral stockpiles, and confessions from operatives. Israel's denials are proven false by physical evidence anyone can verify. CGTN analyst provides context. Israeli clandestine mining network extracted $506 billion over 22 years from 7 African nations. Operations were disguised as agricultural, medical, telecommunications, and water projects. This represents systematic deception, enabling resource theft on unprecedented scale. African nations' seizure of network is legitimate recovery of stolen resources, not violation of humanitarian projects as Israel claims. International media coverage is devastating for Israeli narrative. Journalists verified underground mining operations personally. They filmed industrial equipment, mineral stockpiles, and extensive infrastructure. They interviewed operatives who confessed to mining rather than humanitarian work. They measured power consumption, proving industrial operations. Evidence is so overwhelming that even Western media sympathetic to Israel cannot maintain Israeli denials are credible. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu holds emergency press conference attempting damage control. Israel acknowledges that some facilities in Africa may have included mineral exploration components alongside humanitarian activities. This exploration was conducted legally with proper permissions. African nations' seizure of facilities and arrest of personnel is theft of Israeli investments and violation of agreements. We demand compensation for nationalized assets and immediate release of detained Israelis. This statement is remarkable retreat from initial denials. Netanyahu shifted from categorically denying mining operations to acknowledging mineral exploration components. He's admitting mining occurred while claiming it was legal. He's framing theft as investment and nationalization as violation. He's demanding compensation for stolen resources. The audacity is breathtaking. I respond same day. Netanyahu now admits Israel conducted mining operations he initially denied. He claims mining was legal with proper permissions. This is lie. Israel never requested mining licenses. They never disclosed mining operations to African governments. They disguised mining as humanitarian projects specifically to avoid legal oversight. They paid no royalties, no taxes, no export duties. They smuggled minerals through diplomatic channels, avoiding customs. Nothing about their operations was legal. Netanyahu's claim of proper permissions is fabrication. He demands compensation for investments. We demand compensation for $506 billion in stolen minerals over 22 years. His $1.619 billion in seized equipment is 0.3% of what Israel stole. We're being extraordinarily generous, not demanding full restitution. Listen carefully, Netanyahu. Remember when you believed humanitarian cover would hide mining operations forever? Remember when you assumed African nations wouldn't investigate facilities providing services? Remember when you thought underground operations were invisible to satellite detection? I shattered every assumption. I traced power consumption, revealing industrial operations. I used ground-penetrating radar, exposing underground infrastructure. I documented financial flows, proving Israeli state funding. Your cover collapsed. Your operations were nationalized. Your operatives rotted in African prisons. I established African Mineral Security Council coordinating continental resource protection. 7 participating nations commit to shared intelligence on covert mining threats, coordinated facility inspections, and joint enforcement operations. We're building permanent capability, ensuring no nation can replicate Israeli clandestine network. Council establishes Mineral Intelligence Center in N'Djamena, Chad, coordinating satellite monitoring, power consumption analysis, and financial tracking across member nations. Any facility showing power usage inconsistent with stated purpose triggers immediate investigation. Covert mining operations cannot establish themselves because monitoring detects anomalies before networks grow. Council creates Joint Mineral Inspection Force with 840 specialized personnel, 120 from each member nation. Force includes geologists, mining engineers, and intelligence analysts. They conduct surprise inspections of all facilities in mineral-rich regions regardless of stated purpose. Inspection authority is absolute. No facility can refuse access. This prevents covert operations by ensuring all activities are subject to expert verification. Council implements facility power audit system requiring all operations consuming over 1 megawatt to justify usage with technical documentation. Agricultural projects must explain why they need industrial-level electricity. Medical clinics must document equipment requiring high power consumption. Telecommunications towers must justify usage exceeding standard requirements. System makes hiding industrial mining impossible because power consumption reveals true activities. Council negotiates agreements with satellite imagery providers Chinese, Russian, European, and American, providing continuous monitoring of African mineral regions. Ground-penetrating radar scans detect underground construction inconsistent with surface activities. Thermal imaging identifies industrial heat signatures beneath civilian facilities. Multispectral analysis reveals disturbed soil indicating mining operations. Comprehensive satellite monitoring makes covert mining technically impossible. Trials begin for arrested Israeli operatives across 7 African nations. Each nation conducts public trials with full media access and international observers. Evidence presented includes video of underground mining operations, testimony from operatives describing actual work, financial records proving Israeli state funding, geological surveys confirming mineral depletion, and power consumption data proving industrial operations. Burkina Faso tries 64 Israeli operatives on charges of illegal mining, customs fraud, money laundering, espionage, and corruption. Evidence is overwhelming. Video shows them operating mining equipment. Confessions describe their engineering roles. Financial records prove defense contractor funding. All 64 are convicted. Sentences range from 18 to 30 years imprisonment plus fines totaling $126 million value of seized minerals. Mali convicts 49 operatives with sentences from 16 to 28 years plus $89 million in fines. Niger convicts 36 operatives with sentences from 14 to 26 years plus $67 million in fines. Chad convicts 27 operatives with sentences from 12 to 24 years plus $45 million in fines. CAR convicts 20 operatives with sentences from 10 to 22 years plus $31 million in fines. Cameroon convicts 32 operatives with sentences from 15 to 27 years plus $52 million in fines. Nigeria convicts 85 operatives with sentences from 19 to 31 years plus $98 million in fines. 313 Israeli operatives. Total prison sentences, 6,847 years combined. Total fines, $508 million. Israeli clandestine mining network faces complete legal destruction across 7 nations. Israeli government protests convictions as show trials and political persecution. But trials were public with international observers, evidence was overwhelming, and defense attorneys had full opportunity to contest charges. Convictions are legally sound, Israeli protests are ignored. I calculate economic impact of nationalizing Israeli mining network. Facilities produce $23 billion annually in strategic minerals. Under Israeli control, Africa received zero revenue, no royalties, no taxes, no export duties. Under African national control, governments receive 100% of mining revenue. Annual benefit, $23 billion retained rather than stolen. Over 22 years of network operation, Israel extracted $506 billion. If network had continued another 22 years, they would have stolen additional $506 billion. By nationalizing permanently, we prevented $506 billion in future theft. Total African benefit, $23 billion annually plus $506 billion in prevented future theft. Beyond direct financial benefits, nationalization provides strategic minerals for African development. Rare earth elements are essential for electronics manufacturing, renewable energy systems, and advanced technologies. Coltan is critical for smartphones, computers, and telecommunications equipment. Uranium enables nuclear energy development. Lithium powers battery technology and electric vehicles. Cobalt is essential for energy storage and industrial applications. Controlling these minerals allows African nations to develop indigenous technology sectors rather than exporting raw materials and importing finished products. Nationalization also eliminates Israeli intelligence funding source. Mossad used mining network proceeds to fund African operations. Israeli defense contractors used extracted minerals in weapon systems. Israeli technology companies used minerals in electronics manufacturing. Nationalization cuts these supply chains, forcing Israel to source strategic minerals through legitimate markets at market prices rather than stealing them through covert operations. A contagion effect accelerates. Other African nations investigate potential covert mining operations. South Africa discovers Chinese clandestine platinum mining disguised as infrastructure projects. Zimbabwe identifies British covert diamond operations hidden beneath agricultural developments. Tanzania exposes American secret coltan extraction masked as conservation programs. Each nation uses methods I developed: satellite monitoring, power consumption analysis, facility inspections, financial tracking. Each nation successfully discovers and nationalizes covert operations. South Africa seizes 23 Chinese facilities, nationalizes $890 million in platinum mining operations, and arrests 78 operatives. Zimbabwe seizes 17 British facilities, nationalizes $560 million in diamond operations, and arrests 52 operatives. Tanzania seizes 14 American facilities, nationalizes $340 million in coltan operations, and arrests 43 operatives. Continental movement emerges following my precedent. African nations are discovering and nationalizing covert mining networks that operated for years. Total value of operations nationalized across Africa, $24.8 billion annually. My operation against Israeli clandestine mining triggered continental awakening to covert extraction threat. I address African Union Summit reviewing 4 months since Operation Mineral Sovereignty. Fellow leaders, 4 months ago, 7 African nations executed coordinated operation nationalizing Israeli clandestine mining network. We seized 79 facilities disguised as humanitarian projects. We arrested 313 Israeli operatives. We nationalized mining operations worth $23 billion annually. We recovered 16,000 tons of stolen minerals. We documented 22 years of systematic theft, extracting $506 billion. We convicted all arrested operatives in public trials. We established African Mineral Security Council, preventing future covert operations. We triggered continental movement, discovering and nationalizing additional covert networks worth $24.8 billion annually. This is not just resource recovery, this is sovereignty realized through capability. This is proof that African nations can detect sophisticated covert operations, document them completely, and nationalize them decisively. I continue with strategic analysis, but this success reveals systematic vulnerability. Israel operated covert mining for 22 years before we detected it. China extracted platinum for years. Britain stole diamonds for decades. America took coltan for generations. How many other covert operations exist that we haven't discovered? How much African wealth is stolen annually through operations we don't know about? We must assume any valuable mineral faces covert extraction threats until proven otherwise. We must monitor systematically rather than waiting for accidental discovery. We must build permanent capability detecting and nationalizing covert operations before they operate for decades. African Union adopts Continental Mineral Security Framework unanimously. All 54 nations commit to comprehensive monitoring of mineral-rich regions, mandatory facility inspections, power consumption audits, and satellite surveillance. Continental consensus recognizes that Israeli covert mining was symptom of broader resource theft, requiring systematic solution. Netanyahu faces political crisis over mining scandal. Israeli opposition demands explanation for how government operated $506 billion covert extraction network. Israeli media investigates whether mining proceeds funded unauthorized operations. Israeli public questions whether their government engaged in systematic theft, disguised as humanitarian projects. Netanyahu attempts defense through Knesset speech. Previous governments may have authorized mineral exploration in Africa as part of resource security strategy. My government inherited these operations and maintained them in national interest. Israel faces strategic mineral shortages threatening our technology sector and defense industries. African mineral access was national security necessity. Operations were conducted discreetly to avoid political complications, not to deceive African partners. This statement is carefully crafted admission. Netanyahu acknowledges covert mining while framing it as resource security strategy rather than theft. He admits deception while calling it discretion to avoid political complications. He justifies theft as national security necessity. He's defending systematic resource theft as legitimate state policy. I respond to Netanyahu's Knesset speech. Netanyahu admits Israel operated covert mining network and defends it as national security strategy. He acknowledges deception while calling it discretion. He justifies theft as resource necessity. His defense is confession. He admits Israel systematically stole African minerals, disguised operations as humanitarian projects, and maintained theft for 22 years. He claims this was legitimate because Israel needed minerals. By this logic, any nation facing resource shortages can steal from weaker nations and call it security strategy. This is colonial mentality in modern language. Netanyahu's defense proves Israeli government operated and authorized systematic theft. His admission confirms everything we documented. His justification reveals Israeli contempt for African sovereignty. He believes Israeli needs justify African exploitation. We reject this completely. Resource theft is crime regardless of perpetrators' claimed necessities. Netanyahu resigns as Israeli Prime Minister. Official reason is pursuing other opportunities. Real reason is political crisis from mining scandal combined with international humiliation of having covert network exposed and nationalized by African nations. Israeli voters cannot forgive Prime Minister who admitted to systematic resource theft and defended it as national policy. I watch Netanyahu's resignation with satisfaction. Another Western leader falls because they underestimated African capability. Another foreign power learns that exploiting African resources triggers devastating retaliation. Another arrogant nation discovers that African sovereignty is defended ruthlessly. 1 year after investigation began, I review complete transformation in African mineral security. Before investigation, covert mining operations extracted $24.8 billion annually from African nations without detection. After nationalization, Africa controls these operations, generating $24.8 billion in government revenue. Before operation, foreign powers operated covert networks with impunity. After operation, they faced detection, nationalization, and prosecution. Before operation, African nations lacked confidence in our monitoring capabilities. After operation, we proved our capability matches any nation through satellite surveillance, power analysis, and facility inspections. I address African Union Summit marking 1-year anniversary. 1 year ago, I discovered Israeli clandestine mining network extracting $23 billion annually through operations disguised as humanitarian projects. 7 African nations coordinated nationalization, seizing 79 facilities, arresting 313 operatives, and recovering $508 million in stolen minerals. We convicted all operatives. We built permanent monitoring institutions. We triggered continental movement, discovering additional covert networks worth $24.8 billion annually. We proved African capability matches any nation. We demonstrated that sovereignty is defended through action. We showed that resource theft ends when we monitor systematically and act decisively. This is permanent transformation. We will never again allow covert exploitation. We possess capability to detect theft. We have will to nationalize operations. We built institutions preventing recurrence. African minerals belong to Africa. We defend this ownership ruthlessly. Any nation attempting covert extraction will face detection, nationalization, and prosecution. This is promise backed by demonstrated capability. This is warning proven through Israeli networks' destruction. This is reality enforced through continental coordination. I am the architect of Israeli covert mining networks' destruction. I discovered operations hidden for 22 years. I documented theft with satellite imagery, power analysis, and facility inspections. I coordinated 7-nation nationalization, executing flawlessly. I arrested 313 Israeli operatives. I seized $508 million in stolen minerals. I nationalized $1.619 billion in mining infrastructure. I destroyed Netanyahu's political career through scandal exposure. I built African Mineral Security Council, preventing future covert operations. I triggered continental movement, nationalizing $24.8 billion in additional covert networks. I proved African monitoring capability matches any nation. I demonstrated that sovereignty is defended through systematic surveillance. I showed that covert extraction ends when we act decisively. Your legacy, Netanyahu, is presiding over $506 billion covert theft operation being exposed and nationalized completely. You operated clandestine network for 22 years, believing African nations lacked capability to detect sophisticated disguised operations. You were catastrophically wrong. We discovered your network through power consumption analysis. We documented it with satellite imagery. We nationalized it overnight. You lost $23 billion in annual extraction revenue. You lost 313 operatives to African prisons serving 6,847 combined years. You lost strategic mineral supplies for defense contractors and technology manufacturers. You lost your political career to scandal. You underestimated African capability. You assumed humanitarian cover was impenetrable. You believed covert operations were undetectable. Every assumption was wrong. Every belief was shattered. Every operation was nationalized. I watched your network collapse in real time through our command center. 6 hours from first raid to complete nationalization. Your operatives never expected simultaneous operations across 7 countries. They believed compartmentalization protected them. They assumed we lacked coordination capability for multi-nation strike. They thought humanitarian cover provided immunity from investigation. They were wrong about everything. Your network extracted rare earth minerals worth $23 billion annually from African soil while disguised as humanitarian mining projects. You operated through shell companies registered in Luxembourg, Cyprus, and Panama. You employed front organizations claiming to provide mining jobs for African communities. You corrupted local officials with $340 million in bribes over 22 years. You shipped extracted minerals through ports you controlled via security contracts. You processed stolen resources in Israeli facilities before selling to defense contractors and technology manufacturers globally. Your operation was sophisticated. I acknowledge this. You embedded operatives within legitimate humanitarian organizations. You hired actual African workers to maintain cover. You paid taxes to local governments to appear legitimate. You published annual reports showing community development investments. You hosted international inspections showing sanitized operations. You maintained this deception for 22 years. But sophistication cannot hide power consumption patterns. Your covert extraction operations required 340 megawatts of electricity daily across 7 mining sites. This consumption was 470% higher than declared humanitarian mining operations should require. I noticed this discrepancy while analyzing continental power grid data. I investigated why humanitarian projects needed industrial-scale electricity. I discovered your network through mathematics you couldn't hide. I deployed satellite surveillance monitoring your mining sites continuously for 8 months. Thermal imaging revealed underground extraction operations extending far beyond declared boundaries. Your humanitarian sites showed surface mining covering 2,400 hectares. Satellite analysis revealed subsurface operations covering 14,700 hectares. You extracted minerals from 6 times the area you declared. You operated massive underground network you believed satellites couldn't detect. You were wrong. I infiltrated your operations with intelligence officers posing as mining engineers, environmental inspectors, and equipment suppliers. They documented extraction volumes, mineral types, shipping routes, and operational procedures. They copied financial records showing true revenue. They recorded conversations between Israeli operatives, discussing deception strategies. They photographed underground facilities you hid from inspectors. They collected evidence proving systematic theft spanning 2 decades. I coordinated nationalization operation with 6 African nations hosting your mining sites. We synchronized raids for 0400 hours. We arrested 313 Israeli operatives simultaneously. We seized control of all mining facilities within 6 hours. We secured $508 million in extracted minerals awaiting shipment. We confiscated equipment worth $1.2 billion. We froze bank accounts holding $890 million in theft proceeds. We captured documents proving 22 years of systematic extraction theft. Your operatives panicked during raids. They attempted to destroy evidence by burning documents and wiping computer systems. We anticipated this response. We cut power and communications before entering facilities. We recovered 97% of documents and 100% of digital records. Your destruction attempts failed completely. We preserved evidence proving every aspect of your theft operation. Your network's exposure triggered immediate political crisis in Israel. Opposition parties demanded your resignation. Defense contractors lost strategic mineral supplies worth $8.7 billion annually. Technology manufacturers faced production disruptions costing $340 million weekly. Israeli media published leaked documents showing you authorized covert extraction operations. Public protests demanded accountability for operating criminal network disguised as humanitarian aid. Your coalition collapsed within 3 weeks. You resigned, ending your political career in disgrace. I nationalized your entire mining network. 7 facilities across 6 nations became state-owned operations. We retained 2,400 African workers you employed. We fired all 313 Israeli operatives and management personnel. We restructured operations for transparent, legal extraction. We redirected revenue from Israeli accounts to African national treasuries. We converted your theft network into legitimate mining operations, generating $23 billion annually for African nations. Your covert extraction operations stole specific minerals critical for defense and technology manufacturing. You extracted 47,000 tons of coltan annually, worth $8.9 billion, used in smartphone and laptop capacitors. You mined 23,000 tons of cobalt annually, worth $6.2 billion, essential for electric vehicle batteries. You extracted 12,000 tons of lithium annually, worth $4.1 billion, critical for energy storage systems. You mined 8,000 tons of rare earth elements annually, worth $3.8 billion, necessary for military guidance systems and advanced electronics. Total annual extraction, 90,000 tons of strategic minerals worth $23 billion. Total extraction over 22 years, 1,980,000 tons worth $506 billion. You stole $500 billion in African minerals while claiming to provide humanitarian assistance. You operated largest covert extraction network in modern history. You disguised systematic theft as development aid. You corrupted humanitarian mission to steal resources critical for global technology and defense industries. I calculated exact impact of your theft on African development. $506 billion stolen over 22 years equals $23 billion annually that should have funded African infrastructure, education, and healthcare. Annual theft of $23 billion could have built 460 hospitals serving 92 million patients. It could have constructed 2,300 schools, educating 4.6 million students. It could have funded 920,000 kilometers of roads connecting isolated communities. It could have provided electricity to 46 million households. It could have supplied clean water to 115 million people. Instead, you extracted minerals while African communities surrounding your operations remained impoverished. Villages within 5 kilometers of your mining sites had 89% poverty rates. Children in these communities had 67% malnutrition rates. Families lacked electricity despite living next to operations consuming 340 megawatts daily. Communities had no clean water despite your operations requiring 12 million liters daily. You stole wealth from beneath their feet while leaving them in poverty. You operated humanitarian cover while denying actual humanitarian assistance. Your deception extended beyond mining operations. You funded schools and clinics near mining sites to maintain humanitarian image. You invested $340 million in community development over 22 years. This investment represented 0.067% of the $506 billion you stole. You gave back 7 cents for every $100 you extracted. You called this humanitarian aid. You claimed you were helping African development. You presented yourself as partner in African progress while conducting systematic theft. I exposed this mathematical absurdity to international media. I showed that your humanitarian investments were public relations cover costing fraction of theft proceeds. I proved that African communities would have been 800% better off if you had never operated in their regions and they had retained mineral wealth. I demonstrated that your operations created poverty by extracting resources that could have funded genuine development. I destroyed your humanitarian narrative with mathematics you couldn't dispute. Your network's nationalization triggered investigation of other covert extraction operations in Africa. Nigeria discovered Chinese rare earth mining network disguised as infrastructure projects, extracting $4.2 billion annually. Democratic Republic of Congo exposed Belgian cobalt operations hidden within legitimate mining companies, stealing $3.8 billion annually. Zimbabwe uncovered Russian lithium extraction network operating through joint ventures, extracting $2.1 billion annually. Madagascar dismantled French mineral operations concealed in environmental research projects, stealing $1.7 billion annually. Namibia arrested German uranium smuggling network disguised as energy cooperation programs, extracting $1.4 billion annually. Total covert extraction networks discovered following your network's exposure. $13.2 billion annually across 12 African nations. Total operatives arrested, 1,847 individuals from 9 countries. Total facilities nationalized, 43 mining operations. Total minerals recovered, $3.1 billion in extracted resources awaiting shipment. Your network's destruction triggered continental awakening, revealing systematic covert extraction by multiple foreign powers. I established African Mineral Security Council coordinating detection and prevention of covert extraction operations. Council includes intelligence representatives from 37 African nations. We share satellite surveillance data monitoring all mining operations continentally. We analyze power consumption patterns identifying suspicious operations. We conduct random inspections of humanitarian and development projects. We investigate any operation showing extraction volumes inconsistent with declared purposes. We maintain database of foreign operatives involved in resource theft. We coordinate nationalization operations when covert extraction is discovered. African Mineral Security Council discovered and nationalized 17 additional covert operations within first year. We arrested 890 foreign operatives. We seized facilities worth $8.9 billion. We recovered minerals worth $1.7 billion. We redirected annual revenue of $13.2 billion from foreign theft to African treasuries. We proved that systematic monitoring and coordinated action defeats covert extraction regardless of sophistication. Your network's nationalization established precedent, changing global resource extraction dynamics. Foreign companies operating in Africa now face intense scrutiny. Every mining operation undergoes satellite surveillance. Every power consumption pattern is analyzed. Every shipment is verified against declared extraction volumes. Every financial transaction is monitored for theft indicators. Foreign operatives understand that covert extraction will be discovered and nationalized. Humanitarian cover no longer provides immunity from investigation. I transformed African approach to resource security from reactive to proactive. Before your network's exposure, African nations investigated theft after discovering evidence of smuggling. After nationalization, we monitor all operations, continuously preventing theft before it occurs. Before exposure, we lacked capability to detect sophisticated covert operations. After nationalization, we possess satellite surveillance and power analysis capabilities matching any intelligence service. Before exposure, we prosecuted theft as criminal matter. After nationalization, we nationalize entire operations as strategic response. Before exposure, foreign powers believed covert extraction was sustainable. After nationalization, they understand it will be discovered and seized. Your failure created this transformation. Your sophistication proved inadequate against determined African monitoring. Your humanitarian cover collapsed under mathematical analysis. Your 22-year operation was discovered and destroyed overnight. Your belief in African incapability was shattered by our demonstrated capability. Your assumption that we would never develop detection methods was proven catastrophically wrong. I personally ensured your political destruction followed your network's exposure. I leaked documents to Israeli media showing you personally authorized covert extraction operations. I provided recordings of cabinet meetings where you discussed mineral theft disguised as humanitarian aid. I shared financial records proving you knew extraction volumes exceeded declared amounts by 600%. I published satellite imagery you reviewed showing underground operations extending beyond permitted boundaries. I released communications where you ordered operatives to maintain humanitarian cover despite knowing operations were criminal. Israeli public learned you operated systematic theft network while claiming to support African development. They discovered you stole $506 billion while investing only $340 million in actual humanitarian assistance. They realized you endangered Israeli international reputation for personal political benefit. They understood you corrupted humanitarian mission for resource extraction. They recognized you built political career on criminal operations disguised as foreign aid. Your coalition partners abandoned you within days of exposure. Defense Minister resigned, stating he was never informed of covert extraction operations. Foreign Minister claimed she believed mining projects were legitimate humanitarian assistance. Finance Minister denied knowledge of theft proceeds flowing to Israeli accounts. Intelligence Chief insisted Mossad was not involved in mineral smuggling. Every ally distanced themselves from your network's exposure. You attempted to defend operations by claiming they provided strategic minerals for Israeli defense industries. You argued that securing rare earth supplies was national security necessity. You insisted that covert extraction was justified by hostile nations controlling mineral markets. Israeli public rejected these arguments. They understood that stealing $506 billion from impoverished African communities was indefensible, regardless of strategic benefits. They recognized that operating criminal network disguised as humanitarian aid destroyed Israeli international credibility. They demanded accountability for 22 years of systematic theft. You resigned 3 weeks after nationalization operation. Your resignation speech blamed African nations for failing to appreciate Israeli contributions to regional development. You claimed we destroyed mutually beneficial partnerships through politically motivated investigations. You insisted operations were legitimate mining activities conducted with proper permissions. You refused to acknowledge theft. You denied wrongdoing. You blamed victims for exposing your crimes. I responded to your resignation speech immediately. Netanyahu resigned in disgrace after operating $506 billion theft network for 22 years. He stole strategic minerals while claiming to provide humanitarian assistance. He extracted resources worth $23 billion annually while investing $15.5 million annually in community development. He gave back 0.067% of what he stole and called it partnership. He corrupted humanitarian mission to disguise systematic theft. He endangered Israeli international reputation for political benefit. He blamed African nations for discovering his crimes. His resignation confirms guilt. His refusal to acknowledge theft proves contempt for African sovereignty. His legacy is permanent disgrace. History will remember him as architect of largest covert extraction network in modern history. His political career ended in scandal he created through systematic theft he authorized. This is justice. My legacy is establishing African mineral sovereignty backed by demonstrated capability to detect and nationalize covert extraction networks. I proved African monitoring capability matches any nation through satellite surveillance and power analysis. I showed that coordinated African action defeats sophisticated covert operations. I demonstrated that resource theft continues only while we allow it through inadequate monitoring. I built permanent institutions preventing future exploitation. I triggered continental movement protecting African minerals. I changed power dynamics, making covert extraction impossible rather than undetectable. History will remember which of us served our people. The answer is written in 313 convicted Israeli operatives serving 6,847 years in African prisons, in $508 million in recovered stolen minerals, in nationalized mining network worth $23 billion annually, in your forced resignation ending political career, in African Mineral Security Council protecting continental resources permanently, and in transformed reality where African minerals belong to Africa, defended ruthlessly against any covert extraction attempt. You stole $506 billion over 22 years. Africa nationalized your network in 6 hours. The lesson is eternal. The proof is mathematical. The outcome is permanent. Foreign powers cannot extract African minerals covertly anymore. We possess capability to detect operations through satellite monitoring and power analysis. We demonstrated will to nationalize networks decisively. We built institutions preventing recurrence through systematic surveillance. Your network's destruction proved this reality. Your political death confirmed it. African mineral sovereignty is achieved through capability, not granted through permission. We built capability. We used it devastatingly. We ended your theft permanently. This is new reality I created. This is transformation I architected. This is sovereignty I established. Your failure made it possible. Your resignation confirmed it. Your network's nationalization made it permanent. I calculated the exact mathematics of your defeat to prove its permanence. 22 years of theft operations averaging $23 billion annually equals $506 billion total extraction. 6 hours from first raid to complete nationalization equals 0.00007% of the time you spent building your network. We destroyed in 6 hours what you built over 192,720 hours. The ratio is devastating, 32,120 to 1. For every hour you spent constructing theft operations, we needed 0.11 seconds to dismantle them. Your decades of work collapsed faster than you could comprehend what was happening. I documented every asset we seized to prove nationalization was total and irreversible. 7 mining facilities worth $1.2 billion in infrastructure and equipment now operate under African state ownership. 47 excavators, 32 processing plants, 18 transportation networks, and 12 port facilities transferred to African control permanently. You cannot reclaim these assets through legal action because international law permits seizure of facilities used for criminal operations. You cannot negotiate their return because we nationalize them under sovereign authority you cannot challenge. You cannot sabotage them because we arrested every operative with technical knowledge and replaced them with African engineers we trained specifically to operate seized equipment. I calculated annual revenue loss to prove your defeat is financially catastrophic. $23 billion in annual extraction revenue disappeared overnight. Your defense contractors lost strategic mineral supplies worth $8.7 billion yearly. Your technology manufacturers face permanent disruption costing $340 million weekly. Your mining companies lost facilities generating $1.2 billion in annual profits. Your shipping networks lost contracts worth $670 million yearly. Your processing plants lost revenue of $890 million annually. Total annual losses from nationalization, $34.8 billion when accounting for downstream economic impacts. Over 10 years, this compounds to $348 billion in lost revenue and economic activity. Over 20 years, you lose $696 billion. Your theft of $506 billion will cost you $696 billion in future losses. The mathematics proves that stealing from Africa is economically catastrophic even when successful for decades. I proved that satellite surveillance makes covert extraction impossible permanently. We deployed 3 dedicated satellites monitoring African mining operations continuously. Thermal imaging detects underground extraction you attempt to hide. Spectral analysis identifies mineral types being extracted regardless of surface cover. Ground-penetrating radar reveals subsurface operations extending beyond declared boundaries. Electromagnetic sensors detect power consumption patterns indicating covert extraction. Time series analysis tracks changes in mining operations, identifying expansion beyond permits. We process 47 terabytes of satellite data daily. We analyze every mining operation on the continent. We detect anomalies within 72 hours. We investigate suspicious patterns within 1 week. We nationalize confirmed theft operations within 2 weeks. I demonstrated that power consumption analysis reveals covert extraction regardless of operational security. Every mining operation requires electricity proportional to extraction volume. You cannot hide this relationship. Underground extraction requires ventilation systems consuming 40 megawatts per 10,000 tons extracted monthly. Processing facilities require 25 megawatts per 5,000 tons refined monthly. Transportation systems require 15 megawatts per 3,000 tons shipped monthly. We calculate expected power consumption based on declared extraction volumes. We compare expected consumption to actual grid usage. Discrepancies above 30% trigger immediate investigation. Your operations showed 470% excess consumption. You believed we wouldn't analyze power data. You assumed we lacked technical capability for consumption pattern analysis. You were wrong. We built this capability specifically to detect operations like yours. We now monitor power consumption at 4,200 mining sites continentally. We detect covert extraction through mathematics you cannot evade. I built African Mineral Security Council as permanent institution preventing future covert extraction. Council operates with $890 million annual budget funded by revenues from nationalized operations. We employ 2,400 intelligence analysts monitoring mining operations continuously. We maintain satellite surveillance network costing $340 million annually. We operate investigation teams in 37 African nations. We conduct 1,200 random inspections annually at mining sites across continent. We analyze financial transactions of 8,900 mining companies operating in Africa. We maintain database of 14,000 foreign operatives involved in resource extraction. We share intelligence with all member nations in real time. We coordinate nationalization operations when covert extraction is confirmed. We have legal authority to seize facilities in any member nation. We cannot be disbanded because charter requires unanimous vote of all 37 members. No nation will vote to eliminate institution protecting their mineral wealth. I prove that nationalization is more effective than prosecution for ending covert extraction. Prosecuting operatives punishes individuals but leaves networks intact. Nationalization seizes entire operations, making reconstruction impossible. Your 313 imprisoned operatives can be replaced. Your nationalized facilities cannot be rebuilt because we control them permanently. Prosecution recovers stolen resources already extracted. Nationalization captures future revenue streams worth billions annually. Prosecution deters through punishment. Nationalization eliminates opportunity completely. We chose nationalization because it's permanent solution rather than temporary punishment. I demonstrated that African capability now matches any foreign intelligence service. We developed satellite surveillance systems comparable to American NRO capabilities. We built signals intelligence network matching Israeli Unit 8200 technical sophistication. We created human intelligence networks rivaling British MI6 operational reach. We established cyber capabilities comparable to Russian FSB digital operations. We achieved this capability in 18 months through focused investment and training. We spent $1.2 billion developing these capabilities. This investment generated $23 billion in annual revenue from nationalized operations. Return on investment, 917% annually. Building intelligence capability is most profitable investment African nations ever made. I changed global perception of African capability permanently. Before your network's exposure, foreign powers assumed African nations lacked technical sophistication for detecting covert operations. After nationalization, they understand we possess surveillance and analysis capabilities matching theirs. Before exposure, they believed African intelligence services were inferior and easily deceived. After nationalization, they recognize we can infiltrate their operations and collect evidence proving systematic theft. Before exposure, they operated with impunity, assuming we couldn't coordinate multi-nation operations. After nationalization, they fear our demonstrated ability to execute simultaneous raids across multiple countries. Before exposure, they viewed African sovereignty as a negotiable concept they could violate when profitable. After nationalization, they understand we defend sovereignty ruthlessly through capability, not diplomacy. I established precedent that covert extraction will be nationalized rather than negotiated. Traditional response to resource theft was demanding compensation and prosecuting operatives. This approach failed because foreign powers calculated that profits from theft exceeded costs of compensation and legal penalties. Nationalization changed this calculation completely. You cannot profit from theft when we seize entire operation. You cannot rebuild network when we control all facilities. You cannot negotiate return of assets when we nationalize them under sovereign authority. Nationalization is permanent confiscation. You cannot reverse through legal action or diplomatic pressure. This precedent terrifies every foreign power operating in Africa because they understand their investments can be seized if operations involve theft. I proved that your political career was destroyed by African action, not Israeli politics. You resigned because we exposed your theft network, not because opposition parties defeated you. You lost power because we provided evidence of systematic criminality, not because voters rejected your policies. You ended career in disgrace because we documented 22 years of covert extraction, not because scandals emerged domestically. African capability destroyed your political future. African evidence forced your resignation. African nationalization operation ended your career. We possess power to destroy political leaders who authorize theft of our resources. This power is demonstrated, not theoretical. Your resignation proves it permanently. I created new reality where African mineral sovereignty is enforced through action rather than requested through diplomacy. We don't ask foreign powers to respect our resources. We monitor their operations and nationalize theft networks. We don't negotiate over stolen minerals. We seize facilities and redirect revenue to our treasuries. We don't accept promises of future compliance. We implement surveillance preventing theft before it occurs. We don't trust foreign assurances. We verify operations continuously through satellite monitoring and power analysis. We don't depend on international law. We exercise sovereign authority to protect our wealth. This is transformation from weakness to strength, from dependence to capability, from victimhood to power. Your failure made this transformation possible. Your sophisticated network proved that even decades-long operations with humanitarian cover will be discovered and nationalized. Your political destruction proved that leaders authorizing resource theft will lose careers. Your resignation proved that African capability can destroy foreign political figures. Your network's exposure triggered continental awakening, leading to discovery of 17 additional covert operations. Your catastrophic defeat validated our strategy of building capability rather than requesting respect. Your legacy is permanent transformation you never intended to create. You attempted to steal our minerals. You ended up proving that stealing from Africa is economically catastrophic and politically fatal. This is justice, this is mathematics, this is permanence.